Imagine for a moment that everything you've lived through until today, every fall, every battle, every moment when you thought you had no strength left, didn't happen by accident. Imagine that there was a hidden purpose behind every detail of your path. And what if I told you that there is a pattern, a sign, an invisible mark that appears in the lives of people who have a different destiny? People who, even without knowing it, were separated, strengthened, and prepared by God for something greater. Today, you're going to understand what really happens in the life of someone who is chosen by God. And maybe, by the end of this video, you'll discover that you are part of this small group that carries a special mission in the world. But before anything else, I want to ask you a very important question. Are you one of the chosen? This question may stir something inside you because it awakens something deep, something you may have never put into words. Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit into the world? Have you felt like you carry a heavier weight, a different sensitivity, a perception that others don't have? Have you gone through challenges that seem too big for an ordinary person? Because yes, God's chosen ones live a different life, and today you're going to discover why. To understand what happens in the life of someone who is chosen, we need to look at two sides. The biblical side, which shows how God has always worked with the ones he separated, and the human and emotional side, which reveals how this manifests in real life, in our daily experiences, in our pain, in our battles, and also in our victories. And the first thing you need to know is this: being chosen is not a reward, it is a responsibility. Many people think that being chosen means receiving privileges, open doors, easy paths, but the spiritual truth and the truth of life is the opposite. From the Bible until now, the chosen ones have always walked the most challenging paths. Moses did not have an easy life. David did not have a peaceful life. Joseph suffered injustices. Esther faced death risks. Paul endured persecution. Jesus faced rejection from birth. Purpose always comes with preparation, and preparation is not always comfortable. But what really happens in the life of these people? Let's break it down. First, the chosen one goes through intense processes. These are phases that sculpt the person from within. Moments that make no sense at the time, but later fit together like pieces of a divine puzzle. That's why many chosen people experience rejection early. They feel out of place in the family, among friends, at school, at work. The environment always feels different, as if their heart beats with different rhythm. This is not a coincidence. In the Bible, God separates before he reveals. He isolates before he sends. He forms before he uses. And in real life, this appears as that feeling of not belonging. Maybe you know that feeling very well. Second, the chosen one is trained through battles. And here is something very important. Nothing in the life of a chosen person is small. The problems are never simple. The pain is never light. The challenges always seem bigger than those faced by others. But there is a reason for this. The greater the purpose, the greater the preparation. God does not place a giant in the path of someone who isn't built to defeat it. He places it in the path of someone he is preparing to rule over greater territories. This idea may even give you chills because deep down you feel it. Everything you lived through was not in vain. Every tear was part of the training. Every struggle built something inside you. And even when you thought you had been abandoned, the truth is that you were being shaped. Third, the chosen one feels more. This is the deepest emotional and spiritual part. The chosen person has an uncommon sensitivity. They perceive things others ignore. They feel pain others don't notice. They carry empathy, compassion, intuition, discernment. This is not a flaw. It is a mark, a spiritual characteristic. People like this cannot live just any way. They cannot follow the crowd. They cannot act against their conscience. It's as if there were an internal compass calling, directing, troubling them. And this, in truth, is God guiding you even when you don't realize it. Fourth, the chosen ones go through pruning. Pruning is moments of cutting, loss, and separation. But here's the interesting part. Pruning only happens in trees that have the potential to bear fruit. God cuts what hinders, not what helps. He distances you from people who don't lead you toward your purpose. He closes doors that don't belong to you. He removes things that hold your soul back. In the moment, it hurts. In the moment, it feels unfair. But when you look back, you realize that if those things had stayed, they would have completely diverted you from your purpose. Fifth, the chosen one is tested in the silence. This may be the most challenging point, God's silence. There is a moment in the life of a chosen person when God seems quiet. You pray and don't feel an answer. You seek and don't seem to find. But silence is not absence, it is observation. It is the moment when God tests your faith, your endurance, your character, your heart. It is in silence that He separates the impulsive from the determined. It is in silence that He removes emotional faith and replaces it with solid faith. And it is in silence that He prepares the great turning point. Now comes the deepest part of all. The chosen carry scars. Scars of the soul, scars of the body, scars of their story. But they are scars that shine. They are marks of battles won, pain overcome, deserts crossed. The enemy does not waste time attacking someone who has no value. And God does not allow battles on ground He doesn't intend to give you. And perhaps you're wondering, why does all this happen? Why do the chosen go through so much? Why is their life never simple? Here is the answer. Because God works with purpose, not comfort. Because ordinary people live ordinary stories, but chosen people live extraordinary ones. The chosen one is refined like gold, and gold only shines after passing through fire. The process is harsh, but necessary. And there is something even more important. The chosen attract battles, but they also attract protection. God never abandons a chosen person. He allows the process, but He gives strength. He allows the desert, but He provides water. He allows the valley, but He guides the way. He allows the giant, but He delivers victory. He allows the night, but He prepares the dawn. And when the chosen reaches the climax of the journey, that moment when everything seems to have gone wrong, when there is no way out, when the doors are closed, that is when God steps in. This is the turning point. The moment when God shows that He was working behind the scenes. The moment when the chosen understands why they had to endure so much. The moment when everything suddenly aligns. And that is when the life of the chosen person changes completely. Because there is something no one can stop. When the time comes for the chosen one to be lifted up, there is no closed door that remains closed, no wall that stays standing, no giant that endures, no plan that fails, no evil that prevails. And here is the great revelation of this video. God's chosen ones are not chosen because they are perfect. They are chosen because they have a willing heart, because they are sensitive to the calling, because they have the courage to continue when everything says to stop, because they can turn pain into strength, falls into lessons, battles into resilience. And at the end of the process, the chosen one understands that everything that looked like punishment was actually preparation. Nothing was wasted. Nothing happened by accident. Everything was part of a greater design, of a purpose that now begins to reveal itself. And now, a final reflection for you to keep in your heart. If you feel like your life has never been ordinary, if you went through pain that no one else understands, if you've always been separated, different, sensitive, intense, if you were rejected, criticized, tested, shaped, then maybe, just maybe, you are not hearing this video by coincidence. Maybe you are exactly what you tried to hide for so long, a chosen one. And if this touched you, let this message settle in your heart. Your story is not over. Your purpose is still alive. And what God began, He will finish. It doesn't matter how difficult the journey has been. You didn't come this far just to give up now. Now, before we finish, I want to ask you something simple but very important. If this video spoke to you in any way, if it touched your heart, if it opened your eyes, then subscribe to the channel, because here you will find messages that strengthen, inspire, and accompany you on your spiritual and emotional journey. And of course, leave a like and share it with someone who also needs to hear this today. Thank you so much for being here. May God bless you, strengthen you, and remind you every day. You are not alone. You have a purpose. And yes, You are chosen.